that has happened, the human resources part, we're calling it to think more strategic. Okay, what does thinking strategic mean? Okay, you guys are second years. Next year I'll meet you in BC3. Hopefully you would have known what being strategic is all about. Okay, what is being strategic? Chiefs Pirates, when they play, what wins the day for either of the two teams? No, I didn't say who wins. What wins the day? What's the difference between one team winning and the other one not winning? Sorry? The play? Okay, sorry, repeat that again. The what? The plan that they have, okay? What else wins the day? The what? The referee, maybe. Okay, now, the players, I like that answer. The players, the plan that they have at the end of the day. Being strategic simply means out-competing your competitor. Let me tell you some bad news, okay? Next year, Horses for Courses, 400 students, all of you are going to be competing with other students from other universities. One job. May the best horse win. Okay? What makes one person get that job over the other is how strategic you've been in trying developing skills that are needed in the marketplace. Let me tell you the truth. If you're going to come to me and say, can I have a reference? Okay? I'm applying for this job. And I find out that you're a sloppy student. I'll actually refuse, give you two options. It's either I write the reference, but I write it in a negative way, telling the truth, or I refuse to give you one. Now, what I'm trying to say is that we need to start thinking strategically. Even right now, where we are, being strategic doesn't just happen the 2 weeks before you go and apply for a job, or you're creating a job. No, it's an ongoing process, okay? And some of you have got these ideas of success, which is good. But some of you, your success is when I get to graduation, that's what I'm. Success needs to be a daily thing that you need right now. It means when I give you an assignment, are you going to take it seriously or are you going to leave it a week before the assignment is due? And trust you me, I can see which assignments have been done in a sloppy fashion. Okay, so the focus in the new era was all being, let's change things. Let's turn the 50% admin work that we're doing to more administrative, to more strategic thinking. Now, if you look at the other differences, 30% were operational and employee advocacy, and that hasn't changed, okay? It still means HR still plays that role, okay? You've got a problem at work, you're working and your daughter got sick and you want time off work. HR processes that. What has changed, however, is the issue of the administrative. We've also flipped those around. So if you ask me, if you're asked to define what human resources management is, okay, just think of it, it is a function in the workplace that is concerned with how people behave and act within the organization. Particularly, it is now moving towards to being more strategic. Okay, moving away from admin-related work to trying to be more strategic. If you like, I've put comparison here. Let's try and see if we can. Okay, this is the best we can do for now. Hopefully it will get better tomorrow. Okay, I'll put a comparison here. Traditional HRM, we're talking about personnel management. Strategic HRM, this is where we are now. With regards to planning and formulation, it is now more an all-involving activity. In the past, it was only the ambit of senior people. Now they get more people involved. It's concerned with all managers and employees, strategic HRM. It involves making strategic decisions, and it's all integrated in how the company works. Now, what this teaches us is that the new era is getting better, which is good. Okay, moving away from the traditional, which was marred with problems. Okay, and then here's another comparison. strategic HRM and more personnel management, and you can check that out, okay? The slides are available. I want to show you something though. A definition of human resources management. Now, when can I use a definition? When can I not use a definition? Now, you can get marks when you're writing in your exam, your test, whatever, by not just jumping straight to the answer. Tell me what are the roles of HRM, and you just write them down. Show progression. HRM is defined as the following. The following are the roles of HRM. Okay. It would be sad if we finish this module and you still can't define what HRM is. Okay? Defeats the purpose of learning. So it is a process, I like the word process, and activity that concerns with the human aspects of the workplace. But here's the sad thing. When people want to cut down budgets, what is the department they cut down in? Human resources. When people want to limit outsourced activities, okay? Give you an example. KZN, University of KwaZulu-Natal, got rid of their HR department. What have they done? They've outsourced the HR function to outside suppliers. Okay. It's one of those functions which is still seen as a soft function and yet affected by all that is happening, particularly with cutbacks and so forth. So it concerns itself with recruitment. When you're, let's not start with recruitment. Let's first start with identifying potential and talent out there. What do? We recruit it, the talent. We get it into the workplace. When the talent is in the workplace, what do we do next? We select the best person for the job. Horses for courses next year, 400, one job. Okay. Get the best people in the job. After that, what's next? We've selected the best candidate. This is the best candidate. The next part, we want to help that candidate get used to our internal environment, a process called orientation. You give that orientation to the person. Okay, next what we want to do, we want to give this person a partner, a team buddy who will be able to help them. They do that. Till the person one day, after they've worked long, hand in their resignation letter. I want to leave the company. HR is with that person all the way. And that's good, because it shows that HR is purposeful, deliberate, and intentional in how it operates. Okay. Here's another definition of human resources management. The process of attracting, it's always a process. You can use the word activity. You can use the word capability. You can use the word practice. The practice process of attracting, developing, and maintaining talented and energetic workforce to support the mission, vision of the goal. In other words, the last part is simply saying it would be futile if HR exists without supporting a strategic focus. That's one of the reasons why it exists, for the purpose of strategy. Okay, here's another one. The productive use of people in achieving the organization, here's that word again, strategic objectives. Common word, because it's the era of strategy that we're moving into, where HR is now playing a more strategic focus and a strategic role. Satisfying individual needs that people may have. What needs do they have? They want remuneration. Okay? I mean, let's ask a question here. What do you think is a starting salary for your first job? No, assuming you're already working now, but let's say now you've got your qualification, you want to go to work. What do you think will be a starting salary? 3,000? I had 3,000? Okay, hold on. The right question could be, what is the job? Don't you think so? Yeah, I mean, if it's 3,000 and it's just J, it won't be ideal. Okay, let's say you've been asked to be a marketing officer for a small, medium, okay, let's give an example. I want to run away from government because it's a lot of price. Let's say a guy is just an entrepreneur, he started a company and he wants a marketing officer. 14,000? After or before tax? Before tax, okay? 14,000. Anybody else? 20? 17 to 20,000. Okay? Right? Okay. Right. So what then happens is that HR can negotiate for you to say, look, we're going to give you a cost of living adjustment to the salary at the end of the year. Or the salary is not enough. But this is where you must do your homework before you go and negotiate. They ask you a question, and there is a free tip I'll give you. Okay, they ask you a question. So, what is your starting salary? What would you want? And here you're like, what am I going to say? Okay, you don't want to be too greedy and say a very high amount. At the same time, you don't want to sell yourself short. Okay, the best answer you can give to that question, I want a salary that is in relation to the skills I have, number one. I want a salary, number two, that is in relation to the labor market conditions. The next question they'll ask you, so what are these labor market conditions? What are things that you're going to take into consideration? Well, I'm going to take into consideration the consumer price index, the rate at which prices are going up. You don't want every day, every time you get money, it's finished when you're taking a pillar. Just to commute with a pillar, your salary is finished. Okay? You don't want every time you get paid, you're going to another person to borrow again. Okay, so what we're noticing here is that the HR department also has its needs. Okay? And you also have your needs. The idea and the challenge really is to try and match the two. To try and get everybody singing from the same hymn sheet, which is not possible. Sometimes it's difficult. Okay, so think about those factors, about the needs, and this is what Stoney talks about. Okay, those are responsibilities of human resources managers. Number one, we need to place the right person in the job. Please don't worry about copying, it's all there on Blackboard. Okay, pay attention, that would be what I want from you today. Placing the right person in the right job. Difficult one. You know why, sir? Some people, I'm talking to you. The reason why it's difficult, some people have mastered the art of interviews. They chat. And you know what we do? We confuse that to competence. When you are growing up, you probably had the scenario where people say, this child speaks English, it's an intelligent child. It doesn't mean that. You know, it's a bold jump from intelligence to speaking English. So HR, there's what's known as the halo effect. The halo effect is when you go in an interview room and one characteristic of a person just steals people away. For instance, you know the person who's interviewing you is a Kaiser Chiefs supporter. And that morning when you go to the interview, you're wearing the Kaiser Chiefs tie, you're wearing the Kaiser Chiefs level pin. Okay, so ideally what HR must do, it must place the right person in the right job, and it's not an easy process. That's why sometimes they've started using psychometric tests, they've started using, dare I add, handwriting tests. They want to see your handwriting, and the thinking is that you can assess people's personality by how they write. Okay? They want to ask you activities. What did you do? Worse still, Facebook activity. Okay, I've read articles online of people who've got, the HR department has gone and Googled your name, and here you are, you're in a Facebook picture and you're looking all silly. And they say, it's a reality. If you think I'm bluffing, go Google it and you'll actually see it's true. Number two, they need to help people who are starting new employees the process of orientation. Straightforward. You guys, when you came to Fort Hill for the first time, you had to go through orientation. It is a way of letting you know what happens at Fort Hill. Training employees for jobs that are new to them. Okay? A wise man once said, a fool with a tool is still a fool. They only cease to be a fool until they know how to use the tool. So training is just there to make sure that we have less fools around. Okay? Excuse the language. improving job performance, gaining creative cooperation and developing smooth working relationships, interpreting the firm's policies and procedures, controlling labor costs, seeking and developing abilities of people, and also helping the morale within the organization. Okay, so those are the responsibilities that the HR function does. So the next question is asked, why is human resources important? Well, it's important because in your chapter, in your textbook, chapter 1 introduces you to an important word that I want you to get in your heads. Human resources is the basis for a competitive advantage. Okay, if you're going to forget, think about the Kaiser Chiefs Pirates example. The difference between two fighting parties, Chiefs and Pirates, on that day is who outcompetes the other. So companies are realizing it's not enough to have technology. It's not enough to just have resources. It's not enough to just be the best company in the world, okay? If we have people who we can develop to work within our company for our good, it will be ideal. So human resources is important for the basis, number 1, of attaining a competitive advantage. Please, when you're going to talk about attaining a competitive advantage, define what a competitive advantage is. Okay? You need to let the examiner know what a competitive advantage is. Number 2, it's also realizing that staff, people like you, are a volatile resource. In other words, you guys have been described as the job hopping generation. You're not happy, you will leave. So the interest really is to try and say through human resources, we keep people in the company. By keeping them in the company, we also realize the benefits for the company. Okay, human resources staff are corporate knowledge. You've got the concept of knowledge workers. Okay, knowledge workers. If you don't know how to use Microsoft Office, you need to start learning to use Microsoft Office. Okay? If you don't know how to use basic PowerPoint, you need to learn how to do those things, because those are skills that are in demand. Okay? But you can't go and say, I want to work when you don't have those skills. Okay? Right. So human resources is also there to retain and develop good staff. Individuals contribute more when they are in a company that values and understands them. Okay. So that's why we need the human resources function. Now, where does human resources fit in? Ideally, you've got the big guy at the top, the CEO, okay? What is this an example of, by the way? This is a first-year business management question. The guy at the top, what level of management is that? Top management, okay. Human resources is in the middle here, and this is an example of what? Functional management, others have called it middle management. You will notice that it's been split into components. This is what we're going to talk about. Okay. So human resources is part of the middle tier of management, also known as the functional management level. Right. Here's a story. There was once a blind man, okay, who was riding, who had an elephant. It's an Indian story. And so what he did was, he comes to these people who are blind. So he's not blind. The guy riding the elephant is not blind. But he goes to 6 or 7 blind people around him. And then he tells them, I am riding on top of an animal. But I want you to tell me what the animal is by feeling a part of the animal. Okay? So one of the guys, I think it's this one here, went and took the animal and touched the tail. Felt it was soft, spongy, okay? And had a picture of what the tail is, of what this animal is. Another guy went and touched the leg of the animal and found the leg to be big, humongous, massive, heavy, and he had a picture of what that animal was. Another guy went and touched the ears of the elephant and found them to be soft, okay? Another one went and touched the tusks of the elephant, okay? And at the end of the day, all of them gave a report